Okay, we good, Nick?
It's still loading. Sorry.
That's okay, man.
Okay. So we're good now.
Action? Okay. All right, I will call this meeting to order at 4:05 p.m. on August 9th. Read the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. The land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hati-Wendat-Ronk and the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Do we have any declarations of interest today? Okay, great. Can we get a mover and seconder to adopt the agenda? Vikram, be a mover, and then we need a seconder. Carmen, gotcha. Okay. Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Cool, awesome, thanks. All right, so we got the agenda, adoption of the minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes from Wednesday, May 3rd? Carmen, the mover, and seconder. Matthew. All right, got through that nice and quick. All right, so committee business. First one we have on the agenda is the city speed limit.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Go for it.
Get it on the floor. We just have to do the vote for it to.
Oh yeah, sorry. The vote for to pass the minutes. Yep. Got it. Thank you. All right, on to committee business. The city speed limit. So, Mr. Dunsmore, did you put this one on there? Who put this one on?
Wasn't me.
I believe this was, sorry, Mr. Chair, with respect to a City of St. Catharines pilot project.
Right. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, last time we had a discussion, we wanted to get some information about the City of St. Catharines pilot project. Mr. Dunsmore was nice enough to provide me that information, and it's pretty good information. I'll make sure that's sent out to the rest of the group. But obviously this is an issue that's been cropping up ever since I've been part of the road safety for a couple terms now. With the City of St. Catharines going to 40 kilometers and having a successful pilot project, I feel like that's something the City of Thorold should probably take a look at. Obviously, adoption, will take some time, but I believe with the success that City of St. Catharines and other cities have done in reducing the speed limit, not necessarily on the main roads, but on the, in the subdivisions where neighborhoods and families are, might be a good idea. I'd like to open up discussion if people have any input. Mr. Droz?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, I've been, since I got on council 5-6 years ago, I've been talking about this, and I'm glad it came back up. It's not going to happen overnight. It's just replacing signs that need to be replaced, because you look at the expense, it's pretty high. But, data will show that if you get hit by a car going 40 kilometers, you've got a great chance to survive. Whereas if you get hit by a car going 80 kilometers, which a lot of them do in the 60s. I know even out here where I am, it's 40 and they're going 80. More than likely you're not going to survive. So I'm a proponent of this and have been. Might not change much just because drivers are going to speed anyway, but at least it lets people know that we're expecting a safer community or a slower drive. Whether they adhere to it or changes is up in the air. But like you said, Michael, there's been data showing that it's been working in other communities. So I'm 100% behind this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Droz. Anybody else have any input they'd like to talk about? Donna, go ahead.
I'm wondering if you said it won't be on main roads, but I'm wondering about Front Street. Would the reduction in speed limit apply to Front Street?
I mean, everything's open. It's just an open discussion about it. I was just saying, like, the main arteries you may not want to do, but side streets, maybe front streets, obviously one that could be a good idea.
Okay,
Mr. Droz?
I think it's something we could just get started, and people like Sean that are in engineering and the people in the public works department, roads, I think they can eventually make decisions like that. I know I grew up, and my sister lives in our old house on Pine Street, and I would love to have it lowered to 40 there. It's just, and it's a main road, but it's just the speeding's terrible at certain times of the day.
Mr. Dunsmore, if we were to suggest maybe having like a pilot project in the city of Thorold, with the resources that you guys have there, how long would it take to have some kind of report on what roads you deem would be necessary for that adjustment?
If you saw the report from City of St. Catharines, they did a very small section of town as their pilot program. If that's the approach we want to take, we could certainly agree on an area that we would like to see as the pilot project, if that's our intent. If not, we could just take their results and apply it across the entire city. What we would like to do is get public feedback on the whole thing. As with anything, any traffic calming, any areas in the city that we modify the traffic rules, we tend to have public input to have our council hear everybody's opinion. So if we were going to do a small pilot area, we would probably run it through a PIC, then let it be installed, and we could watch it for a few months to see what the outcomes were, track some of the data, get some, call it scientific data, and then we could have a report back probably spring next year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here and say which ones can or can't be done. And, if we have like a PIC where the public, can get their feedback and say they make a good case for their street, I think that's the really great idea to go. I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in that PIC. Yes, Vikram, go ahead, please.
So if I understand correctly, we are trying to reduce the speed limit from what to 40? Like, what's the speed limit now
50.
in sections which are concerning, and reducing them to 40? For example, a residential area, I agree, yes, we should come down to 40. Kids are playing, yeah.
Mr. Dunsmore, go ahead.
The city speed limit, unless otherwise posted, is 50 kilometers an hour, and they're on city streets, so not regional, not MTO roads. Almost all of them. There's a small list of probably about 10 or 15 roads that are posted higher than 50, and they're only 60. Okay, everything else is a 50 in the city.
Okay, so how much difference would that make by reducing the speed limit to 10 kilometers per hour?
Are you
In
asking?
terms of the pilot, because we don't have the results of the pilot study, so I would like to have a look at that. Yes, theoretically, and yeah, as per my experience as a clinician, yes, 40 kilometers is what we suggest as well. But we normally suggest that in crowded areas or residential areas, but none of the main streets. Because you reduce the speed limit on a main street, you might end up having more traffic going through the street. So we need to look into streets which have more traffic, not essentially speedy traffic, lanes that cater to more traffic throughout the day. And then you have the inner bylanes and you have the residential areas. So I don't know what St. Catharines did about it, but when we normally travel down to the Niagara region or the Niagara Falls area, I know that there are certain areas which are, even in the school, Dorchester Road, for example, is still 50. People still tend to respect the schools and go around 40. So We have to take a logical approach to reducing the speed limits throughout the city for that matter. If we want the public to agree with us and for us to tell them what is beneficial for them, I believe we should start doing that first in the residential areas and the by-lanes, and then probably think of the main roads. This is my thinking.
Okay, thanks, Vikram. Mr. Droz, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think we should follow Sean's lead. He's got a lot of experience in this, and follow what he said. And if we act on it quickly, like he said, hopefully by next spring, we can have some answers and direction. But if we put this off again, it's just going to get kicked down the road. And Sean's got his hand up. I'll let Sean speak.
Go ahead, Sean.
As part of the traffic transportation master plan, we identified classifications of roads. We used very specific names, residential, major residential, minor residential, laneways and so forth. And then above that was collectors and arterial roads. I would suggest that we kind of use that as a guiding document for where we would like to reduce the speeds. So if there's, like, I'm still struggling with exactly what it is you want. Do you want to do a pilot program, or do you want to do it across the city? And if we did it across the city, probably a good place to start would be anything below a collector as a spot to start. We could produce maps that would show you exactly where that is, and then we could go out to the PICs and have those conversations as to if there was specific roads that people wanted to add, like Carm said about adding Pine Street and restricting it down to 40 on Pine Street. We could certainly take all those to council for their consideration.
I mean, me personally, I'd love it to be citywide, but I obviously let the council decide on what they wanted to do. This is just kind of a brief discussion on we're trying to get the movement going forward here. So I'll let somebody adopt a motion, but I'd love to be 40, but we'll see what the city council decides if they want to do a pilot or they want to do 40. So if somebody wants to adopt a motion, we could do that. Go ahead, Donna.
I'm wondering how applicable to Thorold is the information that was gathered from the St. Catharines pilot project. And if we could use that instead of embarking on our own pilot project, we could skip that step if it's going to work equally well. If it's going to apply equally to Thorold and St. Catharines, then there's not really any good reason to repeat the pilot project, or that I know of.
Mr. Droz, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? We've got an expert sitting with us and he's leaving early. So Paul, I'd like to call on Paul and get his opinion. Thank you.
There's the button. I don't think I classify myself as an expert on it. I mean, I really don't have anything to do with traffic studies or, we had no input into St. Catharines' decision to do what they did, or really anything to do with the region. We only come from an enforcement standpoint on the other side of it. I mean, it's signage in a neighborhood. Yeah, in theory, hopefully it would slow people down. There's some people that are going to speed no matter what what the circumstances are going to be. I'd be honest, I'm just interested to see what the results are in St. Catharines. I mean, for years and years and years, all there ever is been a default, right? There's never been signage. It's just, okay, if it's not signed otherwise, inside the city limits is 50 kilometers an hour. School zones and stuff like that will drop it to a 40. But there's never been the actual signage. My understanding is St. Catharines is going to spend, I think it's, you have the numbers in front of you. I think it's better part of $250,000 to put up all the signs on all the side streets to actually mark them as 40K. So it'll be interesting to see what the effect of that is. it'd be all speculation on my point. I really can't draw from anything on my experiences to say one thing will work better than another, because we've never done this before. I've never heard the results from any other communities that have tried it and what the results were from there. I mean, your traffic people probably would be able to pull those studies and be able to give a better indication than I could. Sorry, I'm not more helpful on that one.
Well, it's okay. Does anyone else have any comments on it? Donna, please go ahead.
Does that mean that the St. Catharines pilot project is not yet complete?
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, it is complete. And Michael was given the report that went back to their council. In general, and I want to be very general about what was said in that report, is that they changed the signs in a small section of town. It seemed to have very little impact on how fast people were traveling one way or the other. But they adopted the idea to move ahead with the rest of the city anyway.
And how long were the signs up before this assessment was made?
I think they were up for 6 months or so before they reported back to council.
Long enough for people to learn.
Mr. Droz, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I know what Sean's alluding to from the study is people aren't going to respect it. The only thing, one advantage is that hopefully when they do get observed by a police officer, their fine or consequence will be greater. That's one advantage I find to having it lower. You're going to get a bigger ticket, and hopefully your insurance company finds out.
Vikram, you had a comment? Are you good? Okay. I mean, I think we should make a motion to the city council to see if we can adopt the 40 kilometers an hour. Since I'm the chair, I'm not really sure if I should do the motions, if somebody would want to do the motion. Vikram, go ahead, sorry.
Sean, I have a small question out here. Like Paul was saying that in case you do adopt such things, you might be spending some amount of good money putting up the signages, and so what? How much would Thorold be? If we apply in the whole of Thorold, what are we looking at in terms of finances? Would the city council agree with the finances that we are coming up?
I couldn't tell you that number off the top of my head. What I could do is I could estimate from St. Catharines. St. Catharines has about 500 lane kilometers worth of road. And it's costing them about $300,000 to put all those that signage up. We have about 400 lane kilometers worth of roads, so scale it accordingly. So I'd say about 250. I'm not speaking on behalf of council as to whether they would approve that or not.
Mr. Droz, go ahead.
Sean, is it possible? And my intent originally was to just replace the signage in that area when it's necessary going forward. The other thing is, Sean, are they instead of replacing the whole sign, because it looks like it's a sticker on top of the steel metal, are they able to just put a different sticker on it? Because I know that would, because you don't want to be, if you start removing signs individually, that'll be very costly. But are they able to do that, Sean? That's what I wanted to ask you. If they're just able to put a new sticker on it with a different speed.
Through you.
Or can you find out?
The sticker's the expensive part. The sign is cheap. Like the blank is extremely cheap. It's like $5. The sticker's the expensive part. It's the printing and all that good stuff, and putting it on properly requires to center it, and they have equipment for that at the regional sign shop. I would suspect the sign itself is probably going to cost us about $80. We're not going to need posts for most of them because they already have some, although we will need to put some posts in where there is none. Because right now, like Paul said, we the entire city, unless otherwise posted, is 50 kilometers. If we go into 40, we won't be able to take that approach because the major roads will be 50s and the minor roads will be 40. And we'll have to actually sign some of those minor roads. And the way I believe St. Catharines is planning on dealing with that is into subdivisions, certain parts of town, as they enter off of the main road onto the subdivision roads, they're going to put up a sign at those entrances that it is a 40 unless otherwise posted. Okay. So we would have to really pull out a map to figure out how much it's actually going to cost. But to be honest with you, I think the more important thing right now is the philosophy that we're going to take, right? Because the one thing about the cost is we could amortize, we could put that over a few years and we could implement certain areas, right? So it's instead of being $250,000 this year, it could be $50,000 for the next 5 years, right? And slowly work through the city and get the whole thing taken care of. I really don't think the money is the biggest issue. I think it is whether we want to or not. It is only money after all, right?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Dunsmore. Any other more comments or questions on either the philosophy or the rollout? I think that was well documented by Mr. Dunsmore, and don't have to do it all at once. We can spread it out, which seems more palatable to digest and an upfront cost. Okay. Donna, go ahead.
I have a question for Councillor DeRose. You said that maybe we could replace them as they come up for replacement anyway. And over what term would they all the necessary ones be replaced in that way? By attrition, basically.
Right, yeah, I would have I don't know, Sean might know the lifespan of one of the signs. So I'll let Sean answer.
I don't know the definite lifespan of each individual sign, but I'll tell you that on average, it comes out to 7 to 10 years for us to replace a sign because it's based on the reflectivity level of the sign. So we go out and do an inspection of all our signs every year to make sure that they're reflecting properly, and then we replace them as necessary.
Vikram, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Sean, how many signs or signages do we really have in Thorold at the moment?
I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head, but I suspect that number's in the thousands.
Okay, so yeah, it's going to be difficult to calculate which one's going to go off, like in how many years' time?
We could certainly take a shot at it. I would have to pull out the database about where we're at and look at it. We could certainly. I would say the whole city would be 7 to 10 years if we replace it that way.
Right.
But you're going to end up with some funny situations where you'll have one sign that says 50 and then a block later it'll be 40, right? And we got to be careful about that because we're supposed to give them warning signs and all that stuff when we do those changes, right?
Okay, that makes sense. Any other additional feedback, Mr. Droz?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I know Paul's got to leave soon, so if anybody had a quick question for him before he leaves, now might be the time to do it before he's got to go.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Webb?
I do have to go. If something comes up or somebody has a question, I think you've all got my email address, so feel free to reach out to me by email or drop me a line. I can call anybody that needs to talk at any time. I'd be more than happy to help out. All right.
All right, thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Take care.
Thank you,
See you,
Paul.
Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, I think kind of everyone's on the same page here. I'd like to adopt a motion to recommend to the city of council to change the speed limit from 50 kilometers an hour to 40 kilometers an hour. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Donna for the mover, Mr. Droz for the seconder. All right. Oh, this should be interesting. Okay, second committee business, the White Avenue stop sign. Is everyone
Sorry.
able?
Just,
Nick, go ahead.
I wasn't sure if there was an actual vote on that. I got the mover and seconder.
Everyone vote to approve? Cool. Got it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Keeping me in line over here. Is everyone able to see the new agenda? I do have some pictures there. If you want to scroll down a little bit, if you have it open. Otherwise, I can share my screen. I think we got like page 6 or so. You know what? I'll just share my screen. That might be easier.
Let me know if you need me to share it instead, Michael. You should be able to, but just let me know if I'm having issues.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger. So basically, Matthew had a comment about the White Avenue and Water Street. As you can see here, this is White Avenue walking towards Water Street, and this is where the stop sign is. But as you can see, I'm about 5 houses back. You cannot see that stop sign at all. And if we scroll down a little bit, as you can see, I'm getting a couple houses closer. Again, very difficult to see, if impossible to see that stop sign at all. And oh, Nick, you got it? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I was only seeing a black screen on my end,
Okay.
Michael, just to make sure that the stream people can follow.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks. So yeah, this is White Avenue going south towards Water Street, and you can see that's like a house, like barely like 15 feet away from the stop sign, and you have the trees basically blocking the stop sign. What's happening is I do drive down the street once in a while, and thankfully I know it's there, but you don't see it. You cannot see it until you're like 5 to 10 feet away from the stop sign, either side of the cross section. And Nick, if you want to go down a couple.
Sure.
So basically what's going on is the trees are hindering the visibility of the stop signs, and residents in the area are noticing more and more people are blowing through the stop sign as well. So I'd like to open discussion on the current situation and what you think we should suggest to do about it. Mr. Dunsmore, I can see your hand. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. These are very normal things that happen. I will tell you, as that tree gets older that's blocking the sign, it'll actually stop blocking it a little bit for a while, and then it'll start growing over. This happens all the time. Almost every tree we put up, we have this exact problem. What we can do, and we do in certain locations, is we have little extensions out for the pole to put the stop sign out more over the curb. All you have to do is phone City Hall. There's a complaint form, if you will, action item form, and they don't get taken care of. We don't need to run these things through the committee and all that stuff. It's a simple thing. I'm telling you right now, we in the time it took us to have this meeting, we would have had it fixed.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, if you run those things, like honestly, if you talk to our front desk, there's an online report a concern form. Those things go to our operations staff, and they will go out and take a look at it, and they will fix it. Like it's not the most complicated thing, and we do it all over the place.
Okay, Vikram, go ahead, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Sean, what about relocating the signs a little bit towards the road? Will that help? Or
Yeah, I think it would. I think it would in this case. I think there's enough room that we could actually move the sign, but moving the pole is involves locates and all sorts of stuff. We have these little extensions that we can put out on the side of it, and it'll do the same job.
Okay. So in these types of situations where it looks like it's going to be an easy fix, we should obviously call City Hall or do the report of concern form, and then that should be the proper procedure for these
That's
types
right.
of. Okay.
And our staff will be out there within 24 hours looking at it and coming up with a solution for it.
So
Okay,
we could have this
if you
fixed.
can attach photographs like that, it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm telling you, they really do take it seriously, and they really do get out there within 24 hours.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess after the meeting I can do it. Go ahead, Mr. Dross.
Yeah, I was going to say, Michael, you've got the pictures. I would say, can you just be designated to do it for the committee on behalf of the committee?
Absolutely. No problem at all. Okay. So Matthew, if you get like a resident that mentions something like this, we should just direct them right to the City Hall website and they do the report of concern, and then it'll get taken care of and lickety split, which is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, perfect. I'll let them know for sure that we'll submit that complaint for them. That was easy.
Yeah, no. I like the easy ones. Any other comments from the group on this item? Okay, awesome. I'm going to item 7.3, traffic concerns, Front Street North and McNamara Street. So the memo included in the agenda package explains council has received concerns about dangerous driving at the intersection. McNamara has a stop sign, but neither direction on Front Street North does. Council would like the committee's feedback regarding the potential solutions. Okay, let's see if everyone got the memo on the agenda here.
Does everybody know where they're talking about?
yeah,
I'm like 90% sure, but I'm still going to Google map it anyway. Mr. Drillis, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it's right in front of Front Row Sports there, and and Big Red. Yeah, so I don't know what you can do there. I know the first thought is going to be to put a three-way stop, but I don't know if that would. I'll leave it up to Sean. But it's such a short, like it's only from St. David's Road to the Ormond Street, and it's such a short strip. You have a hard time believing people gather speed, but they do. But I'll refer over to Sean. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's exactly the suggestion that has been made by others, is to make it a three-way stop. I don't know.
So basically, they want to stop a stop sign on either side of Front Street with the stop sign that's currently on McNamara. Okay.
That's what.
Sean, what's your opinion on it?
I think the stop sign will be safer. I will say that I believe that in sooner or later, people are going to get tired of stopping at stop signs, and we're going to cause some grief that way. But I don't think we're at that point just yet. So I think it would certainly help. The other, I can't even think of other solutions in that situation. PXO might be, but those are way more expensive. I think it's a vehicular traffic issue, not a pedestrian issue. So I don't think the PXO is going to actually do you any good. So it's either a stop sign, a yield sign, or a traffic light. And I really don't think a traffic light is warranted there.
Mr. Droz, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Sean, what's a PXO? No, you said PXO?
Yeah, pedestrian crossover.
Oh, gotcha.
Those things we have,
Okay.
the ones we have out on Pine Street by Prince of Wales there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know. I think your suggestion of the stop sign is probably the quickest fix and the least costly.
Yeah. Matthew, go ahead.
I mean, in a situation like this, is there, I know we've got like anecdotal evidence that's being reported by people, but is there any way to actually quantify these complaints? As in, like, how do we actually know that, it's not just an issue that's being blown up or something like that? Is there any way to get some data on this? I don't know.
Mr. Dunsmore?
Yes, that's the easy answer. We could certainly go out and collect speed data as to for the block ahead and block behind. I don't really think that's what they're referring to in terms of the traffic calming in that situation. I think they're actually talking about accidents, but all accidents that happen in the Niagara region that the police are called to are tracked, and we can pull that data from the that database of all the collisions that happen. It takes us a little bit of time to get it. The region actually keeps that database up for us, and we can certainly pull that data so that you guys can make a better judgment if you would like.
How
Yeah.
long?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Matthew. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you said it takes time for you guys to get data from the region, so I assume that we don't have access to that data either, right? It's not just a public database. Okay.
No, it's actually something that the MTO manages, and you have to have a subscription to get it from the MTO.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would give us a little more direction, because I'm sure there are definitely more dangerous intersections in the city that might need the resources looked at before this.
I suspect we're going to talk about one in a few minutes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we could get like an annual report on collision intersections and collisions just for this committee. I don't know. Is that an option?
Yep, absolutely. Yes. I'll take your direction and I'll go get that collision data for you.
So that's
great.
So is it like a 5-year view, and then these are all the intersections or all the accidents that happen? Like it's like a big list form, or how is this data going to be presented?
It comes to us in a Excel sheet.
Nice.
It tells you all the dates of the collision, and even goes as far as to try to identify why the collision happened, meaning the car coming from the northbound direction was traveling too fast and ran into somebody making an illegal right turn. Those types of conversations, whatever the police officer writes down in the report, that's actually where the information comes from. So we can certainly pull that data, and we can ask for it for as far back as they still have the data, which I think is about 10 years. But what we would do is annualize it, so we can tell you how many accidents happened over each year for the last however many years, and then I will tell you on the engineering side, our sensitivity to accidents is probably more than yours, or less than yours, meaning we would think that a intersection is working well with 4 accidents per year, whereas I suspect you guys wouldn't. So that'll be some of the judgment that has to come out of that whole conversation. Okay.
Yeah, that would be wonderful if you could do the full 10 years. And guessing, since it's in Excel, we can obviously identify how many accidents happened in a certain area, right? So that'd be easy to ascertain.
Is there any other intersections that we want to talk about while we're at it?
I know. I think we got Ormond Street and Davis Street, St. Davis Street. I think.
I mean, we don't deal with the regional roads, right? So Highway 20 is off not on ours.
No, we can ask for the data.
So your Highway 20 in Cataract is a serious hotspot right now. We see lots of calls coming in for that. So I'd be curious to see if that, is showing up on the reports yet.
Yeah, it does take some time, I will tell you that. I think by the time the MTO gets it, I think it's 3 months, and then at least that for us to get it back from the MTO.
Okay, it's like a 6-month lead time.
Yeah, but we can give you the stuff that historically that they have.
Okay, Donna, go ahead.
I was wondering if there will be information about the severity of the accident or the incident when in the data, like the value of the damage, or if anyone was injured.
Yes and no. The problem with it is eventually it becomes a Freedom of Information / Privacy Act or issue. And discussing people's injuries is a bit of on the personal side. So it does, I don't know exactly how far they'll go. But like the report that we receive about any individual incident is heavily redacted. Like we don't get to see who was involved or anything like that. As for the injury, that may get redacted out of it as well. Okay, so I can't tell you on every case, but I suspect that there's going to be some redaction of that, so we won't have that information.
Is there like some kind of scale, like 1 to 10, that they use in reporting this information as well?
I have old copies of a police report. If you'd like to see one, I can certainly get it to you guys so you can see what information we get.
Okay, I mean, whenever you're able to pull it and you can send it to us, and then we got some homework to do, and we can
Yeah, for sure.
get some items. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So with the Front Street McNamara, you guys thinking stop sign, yield sign?
Or do you want to see the data first?
I mean, oh, sorry.
Matthew, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm kind of agree. Like throwing up stop signs is a very simple solution, but it has these other implications that, you know, I don't think they should be used for like traffic calming. And in this situation, there's literally a stop sign 150 meters down the road, not even maybe. So,
Either way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like an arterial road too. So, yeah, I mean, I'd always err on the side of look at the data first, just to make sure that we have, you know, an actual need here, and then maybe go from there.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'd rather see the data. I mean, there's literally 2 stop signs like 150 feet away on either side. Vikram, did you have a comment you wanted to ask?
I think I agree with both of you. That makes sense to have a look at the data. The other thing that I saw on some of the roads is that when you approach an area like this, let's assume that I don't know what the speed limit on that road is. It should be 50, right? Okay. So is there any way that as we come close to that particular junction, we can reduce the speed limit there, and then, you know, will it make sense? I don't know.
Yeah,
Mr. Dunsmore, any thoughts?
that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what a yield sign would do as well, right?
Yeah, but people would be more scared of the traffic fines if they increase speed than the yield sign, I believe. I don't know. I mean, this is just a thought that if we could, but whether it's feasible to have a speed limit decrease in that 150 meters or something, but it's still could be tried out.
It's
so-
certainly a less extreme answer to the same question.
Right. I mean, you could put it on the one side. You could put it on the one side before you turn on there from Ormond Street, and you can put one on the stop sign on the other way too. Okay, well, we have lots of options, so let's take a look at the data Mr. Dunsmore will provide, and then, you know, we'll come up with an appropriate solution. Should probably do something, but we'll just take a look at the data, and then we'll come together and come up with a solution. Did Mr. Dunsmore, do they need this before the next city council meeting, or is it just like a time
Pardon?
limit on is there a time limit on this type of item? Oh.
No.
Okay.
We'll try very hard to get it as quickly as we can, but I don't know. It's not exactly the easiest process, believe it or not.
Okay, I'm just wondering if we have time to look at the data, and then we can have it on the next agenda, and then.
I'll see what I can get you the data. How about that?
Okay.
I'll do that as quickly as I can, and we'll work from there.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I just didn't know if they wanted an answer for the next city council meeting or not on this item. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next item. Ormond Street North and St. David Street East, I think it's what's supposed to say. Staff was here to provide an update on the four-way stop assessment. So I know Donna's looking forward to this. So Mr. Dunsmore?
Yeah, we have been, we looked at it, we've drawn it up. We know what we want it to look like. What we need to do is go out, similar to what I talked about on some of the other things. We tend to have public input sessions before that. We don't usually have those in the summertime because people are on vacation and whatnot. So I think our intent would be to have a public information center about this item sometime in September, for taking it to council in October.
Okay, that sounds good. Any questions or comments or feedback? Okay.
Just one quick thing, by the way, we asked for the collision data at that intersection too, and haven't received it yet.
Understood. Bureaucracy. Donna, go ahead.
I live right at that corner, and I know that the speed of the drivers from the Early Bird Restaurant up to the Tim's is the problem. So it makes it very difficult to cross that road when there's a lot of traffic, like for vehicles and pedestrians coming up St. David's, trying to cross Ormond. So anything that's going to slow the drivers down would be a good thing. Ideally, a four-way stop, but a pedestrian crosswalk might work, or whatever other measures could be put in. But I believe there is really a strong call for something there.
Yeah, I mean, school's right there too. Ms. Dunsmore?
Yeah.
So as part of the public information center that we come out with, we will present other options other than just the stop sign. And then we'll ask the participants to help us choose the option, if you will.
Okay, Matthew?
With the high school located at that intersection, is that are they still adding community safety zones, or is that kind of maxed out in the region right now?
The region's program for community safety zones applies only to regional roads. This isn't one of them. And they aren't maxed out exactly, but at the same time, usually a high school wouldn't warrant a community safety zone. Places like public schools and like you guys may or may not be aware of, the region recently added Collier Road right from Highway 58 all the way to St. David's Road as a community safety zone in their strategy, because that is a regional road and it does have 2 schools on it. And so that is happening on the regional side of things, which puts us in an opportunity to have things like red light cameras and automated traffic enforcement or automated speed enforcement, which, so if or when they get around to that, better be careful.
That's good news about that, because I know Mr. DeRose, we talked about that, brought it up a couple times about that intersection was always the region. Mr. DeRose, please go ahead.
Yeah, as Sean said, the region just released that information. There's 25 of them going up. Thorold gets the one, and it does hit both the largest elementary schools in Thorold, Richmond and Our Lady of the Holy Rosary. So it's a start anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Donna, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if there was any speed measurements done on Ormond Street.
We did. Again, based on information from you guys were the first people who told us to take action on it. I think we did. I think we went out and did some speed studies and looked for that collision data. I will say that I would have to refresh my memory a little bit on what's happening on that front. And I will before the PIC. So any data that we have before the Public Information Center, we will certainly present at the Public Information Center.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. So we'll have the PIC sometime in September, so that's good news. Roundtable discussion. Does anyone have anything that they want to bring up or continue to talk about? Donna, go ahead.
I'm wondering what kind of road safety information or evaluations were done for the McDonald's going in across from the school?
There was a traffic safety study done
Uh-huh.
as part of it. They their conclusion from their consultant was it will have minimal impact on the intersection of Pine and Sullivan. We didn't entirely agree with that outcome. So what we forced them to do is give us a deposit in the neighborhood of $100,000 to further study it if or when they get that McDonald's built, to see how it's actually acting. Because one of the things we requested was that it be a right in, right out only on Pine Street. The developer resisted that, saying that that's gonna make it so that they can't function. We still have control over that. We could always put a median down the middle of Pine Street where the railroad tracks used to be, and enforce that right in, right out only. So what the agreement was they would pay, they gave us a deposit to, or are going to give us a deposit, I don't think they've done it yet, to do a traffic study after the fact, and then we'll have to come up with a solution, like whatever the solution of that traffic study is, we'll have to come up with a cost sharing agreement that associates with that. One of the things that I think is a little bit on the table is traffic lights at that intersection, only because it seems to be, the stop signs don't seem to be very effective. But having that driveway that close to the intersection also causes grief. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I think we all know from the Tim Hortons and Thorold what, being raped and that's the stoplights. I mean, we all see it all the time. So that's
yeah. The one thing I want to say, one thing I will say that we did do, we were very specific about, is making sure that drive-through isn't coming in off of Pine Street. The drive-through is actually coming in off of Towpath. So if there's a queuing lane for the drive-through, it will be out onto Towpath, not onto Pine Street, which we think is a better approach to that situation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It would have been a nightmare on Pine Street. I couldn't even imagine. Okay. Well, thanks, Sean, for that information. That was really, really interesting. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to discuss?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Sean, I have a personal observation. So I sometimes drive a SUV or a truck, and the road's pretty clear for me. And sometimes I have to drive my sedan, and the road's kind of low for me at that time, right? So when I'm coming from the tunnel up to Pine Street from Thorlstone Road, as I turn around, or as I have to go to a right, there's a stop which is a kind of, I believe, a couple of feet back, and the ledge of the walkway or the bridge actually stops view for an SUV to see the oncoming vehicles from the other side. I don't know if somebody's ever noticed that. So I've a couple of times had to actually drive over the stop area and see what's coming on. So I was wondering if there was any rule that you have to draw the line to stop over how many feet behind the main area, because honestly, like it was a nightmare for me driving the sedan. It's scary. I mean, and people do speed up in that area for some reason. I don't know why.
I want to tell you, I completely understand what you're saying, and I completely agree. And the other thing I want to tell you is that it's better than it used to be. Back, how long ago was that, Carm? 7 years ago, they reconstructed that bridge, That was actually the first thing I said to the MTO was, you can't see when you come off that ramp for the cars coming over the bridge. What they did to try to alleviate that problem is they put that large washout area on the bridge. If you drive over the bridge, you'll see on the east side of the bridge, there's a very large kind of crossed out, hatched out area. That is there for exactly that reason. It's to try to increase the visibility and your ability to see vehicles in the lanes. So what I suggest you do, and the rule actually is that you're supposed to stop at the stop sign.
Right.
And then you're supposed to ease up, like ease forward until you can get a good view of what you want to see. And at that specific intersection, because that washout area essentially carries right across that intersection, that ramp, the absolute proper way to do that would be to stop at the stop sign at the line and then creep up to the point where your nose is almost in traffic to be able to see properly back down that road. I know people don't do that, and I know there's a lot of conflict there between vehicles. Again, I'd like to tell you that it is so much better than it was before. There used to be trees and everything else there. I know it's uncomfortable, and I think one of the worst parts about it is the people coming the other way on the highway. And when they get off at Pine Street and try to make that left, the distance is so short that it's hard to tell what they're doing in the process. We've looked at many options for that. This was the best option we could eventually land on. One of the things that we also talked about was eliminating the left turn lane there and pushing the lanes even further out to try to create that safety. But like you said, it sometimes it's just a matter of the speed over the bridge, and we keep trying to restrict that, but it's a very difficult situation. And the fact of the matter is the bridge needs to exist, and so maybe as time goes on, what we'll have to do is put traffic lights at that intersection. But the MTO really doesn't like it when we do that, because it backs traffic up onto their highway, which is way more dangerous than what we do. So there's going to be a lot of resistance to any traffic lights at that intersection. So I hope that helps. If you have any suggestions, I'd be glad to hear them, because honestly, we have tried.
So I was wondering if the railings of the bridge could have a slope there so that we could see through. I mean, if you could lower, that can't be done, I believe.
Nope.
So yeah, there goes. So yeah, I'll have to follow the advice that you gave. So
we certainly have looked at that a lot, and I would like to say, I'd like to tell you that we got a better answer than we did, but at least it's a step in the right direction, I think.
right.
Okay, thanks, Vikram. Anybody else have anything they discussed tonight? Vikram, go ahead.
So I live in a community known as Rolling Meadows, Thorold South. And we do have a group, and we have a lot of questions on road safety going on there, suggestions from people as to have speed humps to reduce the racing cars or the traffic. So when somebody in a community has issues, how do we present it to the committee out here? Like, what's the way to bring it across? Through the members or directly to Sean's office?
Mr. Dunsmore?
We have a process mapped out for this. The idea is supposed to be that we receive petitions from the residents. We have a certain cutoff as to how many petition people are supposed to sign it and be residents. We then go through and design possible solutions. We have our PIC, and then we present it to this council or this committee. That's supposed to be the idea. I will tell you, we've talked about two already tonight that have bypassed that process. The one, McNamara and Front Street, came through council back to us, which is it's the same idea, just kind of backwards. And I want to be very clear about something, that council has the privilege to do as they wish. I take direction from them, not the other way around. And then that Ormond Street and St. David's, the committee started that motion directly themselves. So those are three options for it to happen. My preferred way to do it would be to have the petition signed and go from there, because that's it seems like the most expeditious, believe it or not, because it's if you've got everybody kind of on board before we start, it's easy to keep them on board more than it is to get them on board, right? So we certainly do that. We are doing some traffic calming out in Rolling Meadows right now. Homestead Way, I believe, is
Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, that's the area.
Yeah, I believe it is going to have a 40-kilometer-an-hour sign out there as well, ahead of the rest of everything else. So I believe that's already gone to council. It's just a matter of getting it installed. I'd have to check, but I think that's the case. So like I said, my preferred would be for you to go to the website. There's a form there for you to fill out where you have the petition signed and whatnot. The other option would be to come directly to this committee if that's a better solution for you and or the group. Or the third is to go directly to council and they can tell us what to do as they feel like it.
I believe it's all about Homestead Way. So you already said that you're working on it. So I guess that takes care of it.
Yeah, I believe we have a solution. I believe we had a PIC for it. I'd have to refresh my memory a little bit as to where exactly it's at, but it certainly has been at least looked at. I can have Chris, our traffic the guy who kind of takes most of these traffic calming questions. I can have him give you a shout and he can let you know exactly
Sure.
where it's at.
Yeah, that'll be worth it. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Vikram. Anybody else have any items they'd like to discuss tonight? Okay. So yeah, the next meeting is going to be Wednesday, November 1st at 4 p.m. So if you guys have anything you need to add to the agenda, you can do that, and then we'll talk again on November 1st. I'm going to do the reported concern and get the pictures on there, and we'll get this extended stop sign going. Mr. Dunsmore, go ahead.
Carm, did you want to talk about Port Robinson and Cotmire?
Yeah, you know what? They were supposed to reach out to me and they never did. So you might have more information than I do about the situation. I thought they were going to give me something in writing or call me, and no one has. So I don't know if you can share that maybe.
Well, what happened is there was a development application in front of council for there was a public meeting associated with it for rezoning and some minor setback issues. One of the people who talked at the public meeting was a resident out there, and they said that there's all sorts of traffic issues at the intersection of Port Robinson and Cotmire, which is that turning circle that we put in 5 years ago. So what we've done, Carm, is we've got a consultant going out there to do the speed counts, and we're looking for collision data from the region again. And So we are trying to get on top of exactly what that comment was about. I'm not entirely sure, but based on what she said, I think what she was saying is that people aren't using the turning circle properly, meaning they're going the wrong direction. And they're shortcutting the turning circle, which I'm not entirely sure our collision data and or speed studies are going to pick up that information. But what we might have to do is get the police to spend a little time out there giving tickets for going the wrong way on a road.
So Sean, is there anything this committee can do or just sit and wait for now?
I think that as that development application reaches its technical conclusion, the committee should be aware of the comments and or the information that's happening. Probably will get back to council before it gets back here, only because your meetings aren't often enough. But I can certainly forward you any information that we have on any of the studies that we pick up on that whole front.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Okay, yeah, so we'll adjourn at 5:11 and we'll see you guys